Now, folks, um, I've had a real hard time with these videos that I'm showing you. Uh, the first one is minutes. The channel. He's got two channels: minutes of horror and hours of horror. And it's nothing like horror films or anything like that. It's his channels. Well, I'm going to show you, and I've showed them to you before, but this time I'm going to show you again. I got still allergy things kicking up, and it's been raining all day. It wasn't supposed to rain. It was supposed to be partly sunny. No rain mentioned. I get up, and it's raining all day. It is almost 10 to 5 in the afternoon, Wednesday, and it's raining still. I appreciate the rain because I need my reservoir filled, but it's like I keep asking God, would you please just let it rain at night, not in the daytime, so I can get out and do things? I didn't get anything done, but I've been working on videos. I will tell you, YouTube, they're relentless with the ads. Did you notice? There's more of them. And I used to be able to back out of them, go to history, and then as soon as it updates, X out the video and tap on the history where the video shows, and it would skip the video. You can't hardly do that anymore. They've gotten to where they understand that, and there was a few videos I never got to watch the video because they just put ad up after ad after ad after ad, and I'm not going to sit there for a half hour video can turn into an hour video when they do that. And I'm not kidding. I've done this. These two videos have taken me 3 days just to get this far. And I'm not even putting them together. Well, I got them together, but now I'm recording this to put onto the first one. And I got to record 3 of these. So my screen recorder decided to record the visual, but not the audio. And one time I put them all together because it'd been working fine. I put them all together and I realized the whole hour video had nothing as far as audio. So then I got that fixed after about 15 times of deleting or uninstalling and reinstalling, resetting my phone, restarting my phone, I should say. And it worked fine, and I did a couple videos and got them ready to put together. And then the next day, I'd get a couple more videos, same thing, same thing. Now it was saying, well, you know, that the audio will only work if the app that you're using allows it to. But it's always allowed it to. But YouTube has given me a lot of problems. And it's giving a lot of other content creators problems too. There are times when I'll put a video up, and I'll have to do this 2 or 3 times because I'll put it up and it'll look just like what you're going to see now. But then once it's all done, it turns into a short, like the up and down thing. I don't want it that way. I always doing this way. Once a great while I'll do a short, but very, very rarely. And usually if it's a short, it's because I copied somebody else's to show, so that people can see it. And then I forget once in a while to put do not disturb on. So once in a while I'll get almost done and somebody will send a text or something. So I put do not disturb so that no phone calls, no text, no notifications can come through. Except apparently when I'm editing a video, when it's done, it can still come through. It doesn't show up on my screen, but it still shows a notification bell, which comes through on the audio on my videos. So I've had to rearrange everything because they change everything constantly. You can't get away with a month or two without, if there's a change, it's going to affect you. And they do this on purpose. Used to be when you wanted to back out of something, you press the back button once and you can back out of it. And then it would go back to where you were. No, it doesn't do that. It's like 4 or 5 times. And then if you get back to where you were, you're pretty fortunate. Usually it goes back to the very beginning where I didn't want to be. And everything is geared to spend your time. Everything is geared. It's like when you want to back out of an app on your phone, it says to hit it twice. Why? If I want to exit it, I want to exit it. You know, if I make a mistake, I make a mistake. But why do I have to do everything twice? I can hit something to go somewhere 15 times and have a trouble and actually have to back out of it and start over again. But yet, all I got to do is put my hand or my finger over something. I don't even have to touch the screen, and it goes to some website that I don't want to go to, something for sale. You know, it's always buy this, buy that. That's where the Matrix and the movie They Live come in, right? I'm already at 6 minutes and 14 seconds, and I haven't even got to the video yet. But it's a small rant, sort of. So, anyways, I've been washing my hair with something. So I have a question. If you got this far, I have a question. What do you think I'm washing my hair with? I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to give you hints, 2 hints. 1, the Native Americans used it. I'm not going to tell you what for. And 2, the Romans used it. And I'm not going to tell you what for. But you might guess it if you go to both of those and find a common theme there. That's what I've been using for my hair. No shampoo, no soda and vinegar like I was using, which is good to use. I mean, but I'm finding it's actually working better than shampoo because, well, shampoo has poisons in it. And even the more natural stuff, well, it has some of the same stuff in it. They say it don't, but it does. And you can't get out of everything as far as the chemicals and stuff, but you can do your best to try. Well, I'll give you one more hint. You can make it, and you won't run out of it, and you don't have to buy anything to make it. It's natural. There you go. Okay, now on to the videos. So the first one is minutes of horror and hours of horror. And there's 2 videos that I sandwiched together. Now, I did have to piece one video together, but I don't care how many times I watch the stupid thing. At the same spot or close to the same spot, YouTube decided to pop a video in there. And a lot of times when they do that, it's almost to the end, but I need that end part. So then I got to spend hours, and then things disappear. I mean, I'm not kidding. Things disappear, and then I got to either re-record it, which there's a difficult thing because once I record it, and if they decide to make it so that the audio doesn't come through, then I got to redo it again. I'm about ready to get off of this thing. I keep saying that. I've been saying that. And I did go to other platforms at times, but they ended up not working out too good. But there's no ads in the middle. They don't just, you don't get in the middle of a video and all of a sudden the ad pops in. YouTube is notorious for that. And then on top of that, YouTube is also notorious for giving you a copyright claim. The people that had the copyright, they didn't get the claim. They didn't make the claim. YouTube did that, and then, it doesn't matter. The thing is it's getting monotonous. It's getting time consuming. I've got things to do, and I feel like not even screen recorded any parts of any video or showing anything, just having a little chat here or there. And then, I don't know, maybe I'll get more subscribers, maybe I'll get less subscribers. Who cares anymore? We're fried, folks. This is done. This country is done. It's over with. I don't care how much of a slow burn it is. That's what they want. They want everything to fall apart so that everybody gets chaotic kills and eats each other, and then somebody's going to cry out, well, we need something done here. And they're going to say, well, I have the answer, but I also have something you got to do to get the solution. Folks, it's coming. It's coming. Better get ready for it. So this is about Donald Trump. These next two videos is about Donald Trump and the shootings. And I've tried to piece things together to where they're interesting. And the thing is the most important part's usually at the end. And you know what? It doesn't seem like anybody gets that far. You know, if it's an hour-long video, they want to, you know, get out of it. You know, it's so sad. It is so sad. People will watch a movie for 2 hours, but they won't watch something important that might change their mind about things for 2 hours. And mine's an hour. It's going to be an hour now, hour and a minute or two, I think. Well, here you go. I'm out.
What is going on here? I have been wanting to talk about this all night, and of course the topic happens to be what took place at Trump's correspondents' dinner. Immediately, and I don't think it was like 20-30 minutes after the shooting, there were just red flags everywhere. Unlike what took place at Butler, Pennsylvania back on July 13th, 2024 at Trump's rally, where it took multiple days for people to start unraveling multiple things, where they started to say to themselves, nothing's adding up here, nothing's making sense. But when it came to what took place last night, it was like one suspicious thing after another. It's like, where do you begin? Well, let's go ahead and start with Karoline Leavitt. She was red flag number one. She was involved in a couple questionable things. Like, for example, number one, prior to shots being fired at this dinner, she would say this.
Yep. Here we are with President Trump going on stage as a two-term president.
For the first time.
And how about it? And you are, as you know, this man is ready to rumble, is he not?
He is ready to rumble. I will tell you, this speech tonight will be classic Donald J. Trump. It'll be funny. It'll be entertaining. There will be some shots fired tonight in the room. So everyone should tune in. It's going to be really great. I'm looking.
Example number two, we had Karoline Leavitt's husband talking to a senior White House correspondent for Fox News, Aisha Hasni. She was telling the story to Fox News on air when they immediately cut her off.
I want to just quickly tell you, I was sitting next to Karoline Leavitt, the press secretary's husband. He was one of our guests. He was seated right next to me, and right as the dinner was starting, the national anthem happened, and then he kind of leaned over and said, I watched you on TV, you did a great job. You need to be very safe. And he was just very serious when he said that to me. And he kind of looked around the room and he said, there are some...
Sounds like we lost Aisha's phone there. And this happens, by the way, especially when you have so many people attempting to utilize the same self-service at the same time.
Yeah, that's complete BS. Very interesting timing for her to be disconnected right before she was going to identify who those some were that Karoline Leavitt's husband told her to be careful about. Interesting timing indeed. But really quick, talking about a news agency and interesting timing, we had CNN posting this only 3 days, and we do know the so-called powers that be love the number 3. They posted this article only 3 days prior to this correspondence dinner. How would an assassination attempt be staged? What is the article about? They are talking about what took place in Butler, Pennsylvania at Trump's rally back on July 13th, 2024, and the many theories floating online about how the shooting was fake, it was staged. But the question happens to be, why now? Why 2 years later are they talking about this? Again, only 3 days prior to this correspondence dinner. But what's even more bizarre is that CNN is going out their way in this article to strongly debunk the many theories surrounding what took place at Butler, Pennsylvania. They even went ahead and gave us the description of the word staged, what it was used back then in the olden days to what it is now. Why? It almost reads like they knew another event was coming up. They were getting people mentally prepared to the fact that what they were about to see at this correspondence dinner was also not staged. It's almost like they were trying to get ahead of the conspiracy theories. Some people will say that, well, why would CNN want to help Trump? They're anti-Trump. But the thing is, all these news agencies, these mainstream news agencies, are all owned by one source. They're all owned by the three-letter organization, the CIA. The article's timing is so suspicious, I'm surprised it's still up, but I have it saved. Next, you had Trump dropping multiple photos and a video of the suspect running like a bat out of hell past security. You even have some people that are saying that this video could be AI, but the suspect, he was identified as Cole Thomas Allen, 31, and if you notice, in every one of these cases, they always had three names. Some theorize the whole three-name thing is a part of the MK Ultra mind control program. So let's go ahead and take a further look at this Cole Allen individual, because news came out and said he was a teacher, but he actually has some very interesting credentials under his belt, because he lists himself as a game developer, an engineer, a scientist, and a teacher. But if we take a look at his LinkedIn profile back in 2014, a couple months for the summer, he was an undergraduate research fellowship student for JPL, NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. This really wouldn't stand out to me if it wasn't for the fact that for this past month, left and right, we have been hearing that multiple scientists connected to JPL have been either disappearing or ending up deceased under mysterious circumstances. Now we have another person who labels themselves as a scientist connected to JPL, who in a non-scripted real world would have no access whatsoever with a weapon to this dinner, this correspondence dinner. It would be completely guarded to the socks, gains access and starts shooting at a dinner where the president and the vice president and a lot of their staff happens to be. But here's where things get truly bizarre, because people had discovered that there was an X account under the name Henry Martinez, who at the time had no followers, no following, but he had one particular post that goes back to December 21st, 2023, and this one post read, Cole Allen, the same name as the suspect. This is the only post on the entire account. Some people were suggesting that you can go back and edit your X post, but that's not possible. The furthest you can actually go back to edit your post is only an hour. It's not possible to go back 2 years and change whatever you said on X. Some people are also suggesting that this number up here, 79561893, is a specific date, 7 representing July, and if you add up 956, you get 20, the 20th day, 1893 being the year. I looked up what happened on this date, and there's a couple interesting things, but first, there's a book that was written by an individual named Ingersoll Lockwood. One of the books he had written was titled Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. A lot of people believe that this book is proof that Trump is some sort of time traveler. Now, I cannot find the specific date this book was written, but I can find the year, and that year being 1893. I can't find the specific date anywhere online, but if you can find it, please do comment below, because that would be very weird. There's also some very interesting connections when it comes to Trump's family and Nikola Tesla, mainly through his uncle, John G. Trump. Matter of fact, I already made a video about this. I will include at the end of this video, which really ties everything together. But on this date, July 20th, 1893, was the 1893 Chicago World's Fair, where Nikola Tesla played a pivotal role. Tesla's multiple involvements at this fair included the City of Light, the Egg of Columbus, and multiple electrical demonstrations, so needless to say, he was a big name there, if not the main person at this fair. After Nikola Tesla had passed away, Dr. John G. Trump, an MIT engineer and uncle of Donald Trump, was tasked by the United States government to analyze Tesla's papers and equipment. This is where the whole time travel stuff comes into play, but like I said, I will go ahead and get into that at the end of this video. Just a very weird and interesting connection, but it also makes a lot of sense. Also back on July 20th, 1893 was the economic panic. The United States was in the midst of a major financial crisis. By July 1893, the panic was causing bank failures and extreme unemployment, with rates in some states exceeding 25%. So July 20th, 1893 is indeed a very interesting date, Pepe the Frog that's dressed like Trump at his correspondence dinner. Even more so if we can find proof that Baron Trump's Marvelous Adventures was indeed written on that specific date of 1893. But really quick, I do want to talk about a specific card game that I talk about quite often on all my channels. This card game right here called the Illuminati card game, the game of conspiracy. A card game that happens to be very prophetic, but it's just these so-called powers that be that are telling us what's going to happen ahead of time. Talking about Pepe the Frog, there's a card that's titled The Frog God, which shows a giant frog god on stage, but read the description. It says the idols are both frightening and silly, and no one knows why the masters keep them around. You may interfere with a privileged attack on either side. No other players may interfere unless they use other special cards. Interference is an action for each group that interferes, and use of this card is an action for the Frog God, which is very weird given the fact that we had Pepe the Frog 2 years ago calling out Cole Allen. Kek is also something that Pepe the Frog says in its memes, which is supposed to mean LOL, but Kek is also an ancient Egyptian god representing primordial darkness, often depicted as a frog-headed humanoid. Pepe the Frog was also adopted as a symbol by some within MAGA. This is how crazy this card game happens to be. This card game, which was created back in the early 90s, the SPLC, who has been in the news a lot lately, has an article back on August 8th, 2017, and this article is titled, Explaining the Alt-Right Deity of Their Meme Magic. The deity they're talking about is Pepe the Frog. And if you look at the Frog God card, it's listed as magic. This card game is crazy. I would like to do a live one day going over these cards in this deck. The next thing on this X account is the name Henry Martinez. Is this just any name? I don't know. But if you were to search up Henry Martinez's name and NASA, you'll be taken to a NASA article that says Testing Orion's Fairing Separation System. One of the authors on this paper is Henry Martinez, who happens to be involved in Lockheed Martin Space Systems. The publication of this paper goes back to May 1st, 2014, just a month prior to Cole Allen joining NASA's JPL. The coincidences surrounding this one event are so insane that you already know how I feel about coincidences already. Going back to the X account and the whole time travel aspect, this account also has this image up here. If you were to trace this image, it would take you directly to this website right here called timemachine.eu. Clicking on the newsroom section of this website and you go to the date, May 5th, 2022, you can find the image right here where it says, Study on Quality in 3D Digitization of Tangible Cultural Heritage. There are just a lot of clues and hints when it comes to time travel. This might be a reach, this might be a stretch, and I'm fine with that given the context of what we're talking about here, time travel and Nikola Tesla, but there was a movie back in 2017 called The Fifth Dimension where it also says our government created monsters, trust no one, inspired by the MK Ultra experiments. The description of this movie reads, when two graduate student physicists run out of time to prove their theory on time travel, they enlist the help of film students to unearth and chronicle the experiments Nikola Tesla and other students were involved in with the US government, which involved testing LSD, which would be MK mind control, electromagnetic energy and radiation on unsuspecting citizens. When members of the film crew end up missing, the physicists realize they may have gotten much more than what they bargained. And the two main stars of this movie, their last names are Cole and Allen. Cole Allen. And I'm fine with people seeing this part as a reach, but again, given the context of what we're talking about here, this to me just adds to the weirdness. The title, The Fifth Dimension, is very interesting too, given the fact of how many times people say Trump is playing 5D chess. There is more I'm definitely going to go ahead and get into, especially on my other channel, Minutes of Horror. You do have people out there saying that this is just a distraction. More than likely it is. I mean, we're all talking about it, including myself. With all the weirdness surrounding it feeling like a scripted event, of course it's going to stay circulating throughout the media. A lot of people throughout social media are going to talk about it. It seems like this thing was really to push the ballroom, because the first thing that was mentioned, that because of this event, there should be a bigger priority and support to building this ballroom.
We looked at all of the conditions that took place tonight, and I will say, it's not a particularly secure building, and I didn't want to say this, but this is why we have to have all of the attributes of what we're planning at the White House. It's actually a larger room, and it's much more secure. It's drone-proof, it's bulletproof glass. We need the ballroom. That's why Secret Service, that's why the military are demanding it. They've wanted the ballroom for 150 years for lots of different reasons, but today's a little bit different, because today we need levels of security that probably nobody's ever seen before.
Again, the name behind this weird X account is Henry Martinez, works for Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin just happens to be one of the bigger donators to the ballroom. There are so many rabbit holes surrounding this event, but ultimately, they're going to just lead to nowhere, like what happened back on July 13th, 2024 at Trump's rally, when you go down the Thomas Matthew Crooks rabbit hole. Again, with all the weirdness surrounding that, it led to nowhere. There's multiple theories you can play with here. The bigger ones happening to be it's just a flat out scripted event, to it being time travel for a bigger agenda. But at the end of the day, no matter which theories you choose, any answers coming from these people will still continue not to make any sense. Questions will still be had. We'll be going down deeper and deeper rabbit holes that lead to nowhere. Again, exactly like the whole Thomas Matthew Crooks situation. One of the things is that Thomas Matthew Crooks was given phones and was supposed to be a part of foreign actors, but that really, again, that was never expanded upon. And apparently we have Cole Allen here wearing a sweater that shows IDF, Israeli Defense Force. Some people are claiming that this photo may be AI, but a lot of people there are saying that from everything they've gathered so far about this picture, it's real. But I am sure big mainstream news and media will not touch this photo with a 10-foot pole. Or if they do, they're going to come out and say that it's fake or not him, somebody that looks like him. There's definitely a lot to unpack here, but don't expect any real answers from the so-called powers that be, mainstream news and media. But given the fact that this channel is mainly about weirdness, I'm going to go ahead and end this video with my older videos about Trump being a time traveler and the connections to Nikola Tesla. But I'm going to go ahead and play the video I made over a year ago talking about the books. As you all already know, Donald Trump won the 2024 United States presidential election, beating Kamala Harris. So, once again, he is the president of the United States starting in 2025. But is it also possible that Donald Trump could be the last and final president of the United States? Not only that, could Donald Trump also be a time traveler? Now, make no mistake about it, I am very fascinated by this card game called the Game of Conspiracy, the Illuminati card game. That is because for whatever reason, these cards keep foretelling future events. My belief is when it comes to these cards, they don't work as tarots or predictions, but somebody, or perhaps the powers that be, they are letting us know what is in store for the future, what they are doing. Like I've said in other videos, no different than any other forms of media when it comes to subliminal messages. There are quite a few cards in this card game that actually show us the rise of Donald Trump, the attempts made on Donald Trump, and there are other references to Donald Trump's presidency in this card game as well, without actually mentioning Donald Trump. So one has to ask, looking at the cards and looking at the events that have played out, is this just a good guess, or could somebody have been fully aware of what's going to take place in the future? But I was reading this article on medium.com, and there's actually other forms of media that foretell future events that involve Donald Trump. This article on medium.com was published on March 11th, 2021, and the title of this article happens to be, and I believe they meant, is President Trump a time traveler? And this all has to do with a rather interesting book. Reading from the article, it says, it all began when someone was on the Library of Congress archive website and came across a book called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey that was published in 1893 by a man called Lockwood Ingersoll, and the article goes on to say if that is even his real name. And I thought the same thing when I read this author's name. Lockwood Ingersoll sounds like somebody out of Harry Potter or something like that, like it's some kind of alias. But anyway, moving on, the article continues to say, well, actually, he published 3 books in his Trump science fiction series, Travels and Adventures of Little Baron Trump and His Wonderful Dog Bulger, The Underground Journey, and The Last President. What is rather interesting when people talk about this book and Donald Trump, they believe that the Baron mentioned in this book is Donald Trump's son, Barron. But before Barron Trump was born, Donald Trump actually used the alias Barron. So Donald Trump used to call himself Barron. So this article, instead of referencing Donald Trump's alias, they go on to reference his son. But continuing to read, it says, the Underground Journey is about a little boy called Baron Trump. Well, actually his name is Wilhelm Heinrich Sebastian von Trump, or von Trump, but he goes by Barron. So once again, we have the alias connection. Who finds a secret underground portal and time travels to different periods. Now, this might sound like a reach, but the whole the whole video is basically about Donald Trump being a time traveler. So if anybody says that what I'm about to say next is a reach, again, the whole video is about time traveling and Donald Trump. But one of Donald Trump's strongest supporters, and he's been seen at his rallies, he's been even doing his own rallies in support of Donald Trump, is Elon Musk. Elon Musk's nanny has come out and stated that she has witnessed Elon opening up portals and stargates.
Something, a portal, a stargate, whatever. But he was excited and he was jumping up and down. And
so he was able to open up a stargate in his room.
Whatever you want to call it. It was a different dimension.
A portal. Well, portal would be the actual name.
And I've been so embarrassed to say it out loud that everybody would laugh at me or lock me up. I only told my aunt.
So tell me what happened. Something's not right. Something's scary in that room. Describe what you see and what happens.
I went to the edge of the doorway and I peeked in there, and I was afraid just to peek. And there was something happening in there, like a sci-fi movie. And there was something, he set him up like a little Stonehenge on his bed. And he was tiny, like I told you, so tiny. And he was jumping up and down and he was saying, "Moon, come play with my friends." Okay. That right there says he knew exactly what he was doing. It wasn't like he accidentally opened a portal and didn't know what he had friends. So I peeked in there and I was so scared. I'm embarrassed to tell this. It's so ridiculously weird. And he was being lifted and he was starting to go. He was being lifted and he was being lifted and being sucked in. I know this sounds ridiculous, but my aunt told me don't let nothing happen to that effing little kid. And normally I would never let anything happen to a child I was watching. I would run between them and a pit bull. And I said, the way she said it, I said, "Why?" And she goes, "He's going to rule the world someday." And I'm like, "What? Him? What do you?"
Now, whether you believe her or not, or whether you believe that he had opened up portals or not, it's still a rather interesting connection when we're talking about this book here and Barron Trump going through portals. Continuing on, it says, now the immediate and glaring thing here is that Barron is President Trump's youngest son. If you look at the characters' drawings in The Underground Journey and compare them to pictures of real-life Barron Trump, the resemblance is uncanny. But we haven't even gotten started yet. In the book, little Barron Trump has a mentor and father figure, a man called Don. The events of this book take place in Russia. Besides Donald Trump's famous friendship with Putin, Melania Trump, President Trump's wife, and mother of modern-day Barron Trump, were born in Novo Mesto, Slovenia, before moving to the United States. So, 4 years later, Ingersoll published the sequel, The Last President, and prominent coincidental name aside, this is where stuff starts to get weird. The main plot is about a very wealthy man who lives on Fifth Avenue in New York, who decides to run for president, and naturally no one expects him to win. And as you might expect by now, located at 725 Fifth Avenue in New York today is none other than Trump Tower. The article goes on to remind us that this book was written nearly 124 years ago, and that this could all be just some kind of strange coincidence. But when you include the Illuminati card game, when you include other things that have happened, let us not also forget how The Simpsons eerily predicted Donald Trump's presidency decades ago. The episode Bart to the Future, which aired on March 19, 2000, is often credited for predicting political events. In the episode, Bart gets a glimpse into a future where his sister Lisa has become the president of the United States. But first, Lisa has to fix the biggest budget crisis her predecessor, President Trump, caused. When Donald Trump was sworn in as the 45th president of the United States in 2017, fans were quick to say this was proof that the show predicted real-life events. And you also include this book, there's really only 3 outcomes here. Either 1, yes, there's some kind of strange time traveling going on here. 2, Donald Trump decided to live his life based on this book. Or 3, yes, it could be all a quote-unquote coincidence. Reading the article, it says, well, in the book, shortly after mysterious wealthy man wins the election no one expected him to win, he's inaugurated and starts selecting his cabinet. One of the first people he chooses is another mysterious gentleman who goes by the name Mr. Pence. Granted, in the book, he is given the post of Secretary of Agriculture rather than Vice President, but still, what's going on here? After his inauguration, since no one expected him to win, the city of New York and the broader United States in general erupts into violence with people rioting and damaging property left and right and center. So naturally, the new president signed some new executive orders to control the people better. The article goes on to say that this next theory gets even crazier, but it might be a stretch, so please keep an open mind. Today, everyone knows about the forgotten physicist Nikola Tesla. In 1943, passed away bankrupt, in love with a pigeon, don't ask, and all alone in room 3327 of the Hotel New Yorker at the age of 86 from a blood clot. While this theory usually says something along the lines of Tesla having designed for a time machine, this isn't strictly true. He was generally pretty critical of Einstein's theory of relativity, one of the main ideas that time travel is based on, as he didn't believe space could be curved. The thing is, he claimed to have developed his theory regarding matter and energy that he started working on in 1892. In 1937, at age 81, he claimed in a letter to have completed a dynamic theory of gravity that would put an end to idle speculations and false conceptions about curved space. However, this theory was never found in any more of his writings, seemingly disappeared from any record. Now, after he passed away, the United States government took possession of all his inventions, theories, and files in the interest of seeing what he knew. The department that took everything was known as the Office of Alien Property, alien as in foreign, not as in the Greys. And after they took a look at everything, they handed everything left over to the FBI. Long story short, the FBI hired an outside engineer from MIT to make sense of everything Tesla had, especially his inventions. And the man they hired was no other than John G. Trump, the late uncle of President Trump. No matter what you think of this theory, there are a lot of quote-unquote coincidences here. After studying everything, John Trump determined nothing dangerous in Tesla inventions could hurt the United States government, so this conspiracy theory goes perhaps John Trump lied to the government to keep Tesla's theories to himself and out of the hands of the government, perhaps to help his own family, who then not only time traveled through time to set up their vast wealth, but also cement their power in society. The article even references Back to the Future too. It goes on to say, so what do you think? Could Trump be a time traveler? I mean, what a crazy idea, yet maybe sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. Strangest of all might even be the connection to Back to the Future 2, in which Biff uses a time machine and basically becomes Donald Trump. Now, at the end of the day, this is just a fun conspiracy theory, and yes, there are a lot of eerie coincidences, but who really knows? Who really knows in this very strange world? But in any case, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe. If you're already subscribed, please like, as any engagement does help the channel grow. Once again, thank you so much for your support. Now, I wasn't planning on making a video today, so this isn't going to be my usual 20-30 minute long video, but I wanted to talk about this because I do not believe in coincidences of this magnitude. I just don't. So what am I talking about? Well, there's a card game that I have spoken about quite often on all my channels, the Illuminati card game, the game of conspiracy. What really brought attention to this card game to a lot of people was this card right here that says enough is enough. But a lot of people, including myself, thought the man on this card looks a lot like Trump, and you can see a bullet flying past. And people said, wow, that's weird given the fact that this card game was made back in the late 80s, early 90s. And it's not just this whole Trump stuff, but also you can find 9/11, you can find the BP oil spill, just a bunch of other stuff that this card game happens to foretell. But I do want to talk about this card Enough is Enough because this pretty much made the whole thing mainstream. You had so many people talking about that it even made news and media. So I am sure the so-called powers that be are aware that we are aware. Well, 21 hours from this recording, the official White House X account happened to post something interesting. They posted this. This is in relation to the most recent supposed attempt on Trump by an individual named Cole Allen. This post reads, I do think the hate speech of the Democrats is very dangerous. I really think it's dangerous for the country. But look at the caption of the post. Enough is enough. The Enough is Enough card reads like an assassination attempt talking about how snipers can drop you at any time, any place. Have a nice day. But there's also something else interesting on the card besides the man who looks like Trump and the bullet flying past. The triangles come together to make a square, a cube. We can also see the man that looks like Trump just happens to be within a black cube. Most of us already know about the black cube of Saturn worship, the cube worship, but the coincidence lies in the photo of Cole Allen laying on the ground. We can see the carpet looks like a bunch of cubes. This is way too weird to be just a coincidence. And I know some people will say, well, they're going all this way to change the carpets to have it look like cubes to match the card or to show the cube worship symbolism. That just seems like way too much to do to go out your way to do. And I would agree, being a normal thinking person that doesn't partake in these rituals, but for the so-called powers that be, nothing's too big, nothing's too small when it's them conducting rituals and showing off their symbolism, especially when it comes to the black cube symbolism. The black cube worship, where it almost looks like in this picture, Cole Allen is flat on the ground and he's kissing one of the cubes. Now, could that be seen as a reach or a stretcher? Sure, but we're no longer in conspiracy theory land here. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is high strangeness. This is even beyond X-Files. They even have a photo of the gun he supposedly used laying on the cubes as well. But the cube talk does not stop there, because in one of the photos that was released of Cole Allen, he was seen wearing an Israeli Defense Forces sweater, an IDF sweater, which news and media, funny enough, are bringing out their fact checkers from the toilets and sewers they reside in to now try to debunk this photo as just AI, which I said they were going to go ahead and do in my other video on Hours of Horror. Like, for example, this article from the New York Post, all the clues that photo of accused WHCD gunman Cole Allen in IDF shirt is AI. But oddly enough, this was also Cole Allen's username on Blue Sky, which is a social media app, Cold Force. But if you look at it, the IDF really stands out because it's separated from the rest of the letters. I happened to screenshot this username when it was first revealed to be his, before Blue Sky went ahead and banned the account. What also stood out to me about this account is that I noticed he lists himself as a supporter for Ukraine, which, if you remember, another individual who was arrested for targeting Trump, Ryan Wesley Ruth, was a huge supporter of Ukraine, even to the point he was featured in one of their commercials. We know a lot about these two, but when it comes to Thomas Matthew Crooks, well, that was just quickly swept under the rug. You can also see right here this article from the New York Times. Investigators seeking attackers' motive comb through an archive of posts. Federal authorities are looking into whether Cole Thomas Allen posted on Blue Sky as Cold Force, who wrote and promoted liberal views that did not stand out on the left-leaning platform. So again, where does the whole black cube symbolism come into play? Well, Israel does have a very interesting website called www.blackcube.com, and as you can read right here, it says, its employees include former members of Israeli intelligence units. In the past, it has supported Israel Defense Forces activities. When you go to the website, you're hit with the black cube, and it says, secure the seemingly impossible. Black Cube is an intelligence firm that can help you win when no one else can. It does come off like there are a bunch of lawyers, because this part right here says, winning your lawsuit depends on securing critical information that seems impossible to obtain. Black Cube specializes in high-profile litigations, arbitrations, and white-collar crime cases. But reading the website, they almost come off like an intelligence operation. It goes on to say, as veterans of Israel's elite intelligence units, our operatives conduct innovative, complex operations online and offline. Our human intelligence methodology is supported by top-notch open source capabilities and cutting-edge technology to secure hard evidence otherwise impossible to obtain. Their advisory board contains a bunch of generals, which makes a lot of sense given the fact that they do assist the IDF. The black cube symbolism has another connection because this individual right here, Henry Martinez, who has no other post on his X account, back in December of 2023, the only post he ever made was this one right here that said Cole Allen. But he has some very interesting artwork on his banner right here that was taken directly from this website right here called timemachine.eu. The symbol that this company or website uses is the black cube. Then we have the ballroom. One of the very first things that Trump said after this correspondence dinner in a speech was that this is the reason why we have to build the ballroom. Now let's be honest, whether this event happened or not at this correspondence dinner, they were still going to build this ballroom, because I see some people saying that this event that took place was to push building the ballroom, but again, it's going to happen. So it really did not have to be brought up, but it's all about the black cube. It's all about Baal. Because black cube worship is Saturn worship. Saturn is Baal. The ballroom looks suspiciously like the temple of Baal. They're already building the arch. The Arch of Palmyra oversaw the temple of Baal. These are not coincidences. These events are nothing more than rituals for a bigger agenda, also meant to draw your emotions in the name of the black cube, in the name of Saturn, in the name of Baal. And I said this would happen. I said this would happen multiple times. For one, due to this article right here, I made multiple videos on this article from the New York Post. Saturn in Aries, expect possible fires, floods, upheaval, and apocalyptic extremes. This part of the article really stood out to me when they talk about Saturn, and again, Saturn is Baal, and they're talking about his sickle. It goes on to say that this tool is apt when we consider the function of the planet in our lives and the perennial message that we reap what we sow and are only as strong as our ability to serve, and sacrifice. They made sure to say serve twice because we are in heavy Baal worship times. This individual in the article says that because Saturn will be going into Aries, we will be subject to extreme events and literal and metaphorical upheaval. Saturn represents the durability of structures, buildings, and the earth itself. With Saturn in the sign of its fall, I anticipate severe earthquakes. In addition, they said that because Saturn is associated with extremes and Aries with extreme force, we could be subject to cold temperatures, heavy rain, flooding, and drought, which we have been seeing a lot of. In terms of human affairs, Saturn oversees governments and figureheads, particularly age leaders, which is interesting because the exact same day that the planets had lined up and Saturn went into Aries, we saw the United States and Israel fire upon Iran, where we were told that the Ayatollah had supposedly passed away, which according to his astrology sign, he just happens to be in Aries. We are in heavy ritual times, and they bring us along in the rituals. We partake in them because we give our emotions to them by thinking that these are real. What we're seeing is real. And this video isn't a left thing, it isn't a right thing. You all know how I feel about politics. I made multiple videos about Biden. I didn't even think Biden was a human. I thought he was a android. I thought he was a robot, or like multiple actors were playing Biden. If you went through that whole Biden presidency thinking his presidency was normal, I don't know what to say. If you were to even type into Google Illuminati card game Biden, the very first card that pops up is this card right here, the imposter card. It looks like a darker skinned individual is wearing a Biden mask on the card's artwork. Could that individual be Obama? I mean, again, it's a very odd coincidence. And sometimes I do go down the whole time travel rabbit hole because it's a very interesting rabbit hole to go down into. But at the end of the day, maybe there's no time travel involved at all. Maybe everything is just scripted. Everything is scripted ahead of time. And the script writers show us parts of the script ahead of time, just like any other trailer for an upcoming movie, because it's a part of the ritual. It's a part of their karma system. And to add the cherry on the scripted Sunday, we had Fox News host just out of the blue being recorded for whatever reason, having a conversation where they just happened to bring up this.
I love that they have like two random chicks holding the front door open. Where's the guys? We're not even trying anymore. It's not even like, I just mean like they're not even like Secret Service people. It's like the girls who work here are holding the door. Even if it was the guys, it wouldn't even make it better. It's like just like they might as well put a doorstop in. Like, what the They put up a doorstop and a scarecrow. Don't this guy.
So Fox News just happened to be randomly caught on camera talking about the lack of security at this dinner. In a normal world, in a normal society, because the excuse they're using is that Cole Allen was already staying there, that's how he got easy access. But in a normal world, in a normal society, where we have an event where not only do we have the president, the vice president, the president's wife, most of his staff, including the head of the FBI, this entire location would be so guarded down, it would be impossible to run the way that Cole Allen had ran in this video. This place would have been so locked down and guarded that he would have been popped well before he was seen going into frame here.
Errol, I want to show you something. This ticket is all you needed to present in order to go through the magnetometers and then enter the ballroom. Nowhere in that hotel did you require an ID. Did anybody ask you for an ID? Now, this ticket is all you needed to present in order to go through the magnetometers and then enter the ballroom. Nowhere in that hotel did you require an ID. Did anybody ask you for an ID? Now,
in a real world, that would never happen. In a scripted world where things are allowed to happen for certain reasons, that would happen. And one last thing I also want to say as to where this will go ahead and take us is speech, censoring speech, and making sure they are monitoring what we say, and possibly opening doors to a mandatory digital ID. You never know. Because if you notice, every time a big event happens, there's always one man involved saying certain things during that time to the point they really want to go ahead and monitor speech is Jimmy Kimmel. What Jimmy Kimmel had said upset a lot of people on the right, especially Melania Trump, which caught the attention of Caroline Leavitt, who gave a speech talking about how just 2 days, as again coincidence may have it, just 2 days prior to this correspondence dinner, Jimmy Kimmel made a reference to Melania Trump being a widow, or an expected widow, which is really circulating around, so I'm sure that's going to play into, again, what we say in our speech. Now, did Kimmel say that because he's on the left and he's a heavy liberal, or because he's a part of the Brotherhood, the script writers, those who consider themselves to be the architects of this world? Well, let's just take a look at Jimmy Kimmel's building.
All right, so we're here in Hollywood Boulevard. There goes Jimmy Kimmel Live, right? But look at the top of the building. Look what it says. Freemasonry builds its temples among the nations and in the hearts of men. Look at this. This is no other than Hollywood Boulevard. But look, the Jimmy Kimmel Live building is a Freemasonry building. I'm telling y'all, man, Hollywood is filled with Freemasonry, trafficking, cults. It's crazy. They made sure to make Jimmy Kimmel Live right here in this building. Y'all know what this means, man. Just like all the rest of these crazy, creepy places. But yeah, I just wanted to show y'all that.
That definitely speaks for itself. And Kimmel, again, is always the go-to man of extreme inflammatory remarks that widens that gap even further between those on the left and those on the right. When Kimmel got suspended the first time for saying inflammatory remarks during the whole Charlie Kirk situation, they brought him right back because he's a part of the Brotherhood. And for anybody saying, well, he's just doing this for ratings, he's just known to be that extreme, his entire studio is a Freemason temple. But yeah, I wanted to make this video because the coincidences are so abundant. It's just very clear we're looking at a ritualistic event, a scripted one, where they have multiple agendas, whether it's speech or pulling on our emotions, to even mentioning Baal and them showing their allegiance to Baal, the Black Cube, because we are, again, in heavy Baal worship times. When Baal goes into Aries, Baal is in a weakened state. So again, they have to serve, and sacrifice, and definitely show that allegiance. And them doing things based on the planets, based on Saturn and Baal is nothing new. We were told a long time ago by the news themselves that Reagan's entire presidency was overseen by Nancy Reagan because she was heavy into astrology, but I'm sure this had other meaning, especially when we're talking about Saturn and Saturn worship. I'm going to end this video with this clip right here.
Mitchell tells us tonight, new reports of Mrs. Reagan's reliance on an astrologer raise new questions about national security.
In her book, My Turn, Nancy Reagan says she relied on astrology as a crutch because of fears about her husband's safety after the assassination attempt. Astrologer Joan Quigley told NBC News she and Mrs. Reagan talked constantly, sometimes several times a day, and not only about the president's safety.
She was not only interested in the president's safety and having me do for him the things that I'd done during the 80 campaign, but she was also interested in improving her own image. And I was very occupied with that at first.
Quigley had veto power over the scheduling of all presidential press conferences. She advised when it was safe to travel, when he should hold a summit.
I picked a time on the day they left that was an excellent time for what we wanted to accomplish. And I also changed their evil empire attitude by briefing them on Gorbachev's horoscope. By the time we were working on the Washington summit, she was calling me 2 and 3 times a day.
Intelligence officials say the CIA went nuts when it learned the First Lady was discussing U.S.-Soviet relations with an outsider on non-secure lines. Some White House officials were also horrified that presidential security was being breached. And according to former White House officials and Quigley, the astrologer was involved in everything. She picked the departure time for the Reykjavik summit, the optimum time for signing an arms control treaty, the best time for the trip to Moscow. And when Mrs. Reagan was upset about a controversial trip to Germany in 1985, Quigley plotted every takeoff and landing. Her scheduling for that visit to the Bitburg Cemetery was so complicated that former White House aide Michael Deaver sought permission from Mrs. Reagan to talk to the astrologer directly. The president knew what was going on. Deaver told NBC News that if Mrs. Reagan wanted the schedule changed, she would say, "I've told Ronnie, and that's what Joan recommends." Described by friends as superstitious, almost mystical, Reagan was inclined to defer to his wife's wishes.
No, that's bad luck.
I have learned not to argue with her superstition.
Former aides say Ronald Reagan was a man who read his horoscope and the funnies before the rest of the paper. They say he wasn't only indulging his wife, that the former president also believed in astrology. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News.